Uncommon is a production by Neuralle, a unique digital agency. Neuralle specialises in content production in the areas that matter most to your content strategy, across podcast production, video production, and social media. If you want to increase your conversion or grow your brand trust, head to neuralle.com to request a callback. That's neuralle.com.
My name's Jordan Michaelides and I'm the host of Uncommon, a show that asks the why on business, current affairs, media, and sport. If you like this episode, do of course like and subscribe. This will help the YouTube algorithm work out whether you like this type of content. To find all previous guests, just head to neuralle.com/uncommon. For podcast audio, search Uncommon on all your good podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For social, keep up to date with behind the scenes at uncommon_show. With all that being said, let's get into the episode. My guests this week, Mark and Seb from Stepmates, from the soon-to-be released regular Old Bogan on 7 Mate. Cusack, Pride guest, both Pride guests actually. Well known for YOLO Crystal Fantasy, Rick and Morty Bushworld, and Koala Man. Fellas, how are you, mate?
G'day, everyone. How are you?
How's it going?
Here's my dot points of openers. Seb's recent celebrity on Twitter. How many groupies has Michael slept with? How do animators cope with all the pussy thrown their way? Camera rigs and drugs.
Wow.
Drugs. That's a pretty normal rundown for any podcast, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Straight to the nitty
That's what
gritty.
David Letterman's first questions are always.
Yeah.
What fucking drugs did you do? Who'd you fucking sleep with?
No foreplay from Jordan whatsoever. Just
No.
in drive.
Just straight in.
This is what I'm going to do to you. Bang, 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 bang.
But isn't that
Hey,
me?
so this was,
6 months ahead, we fucking book in an interview.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
This
such
was
the way with
supposed
you.
to
It
all
feels,
happen,
it's always 6 months ahead. It's like fucking like it's never the next day. I remember I said like, let's do a big potty, and it's like, oh yeah, November. I was like, fuck, man. But the good thing about that was like, oh, at least coronavirus will be over and we can all meet up.
Yeah. Now, Jordan's a classic for how's November and 2 p.m. on the 16th of November and stuff like that. I don't know. Fuck. Yeah, I'll be right.
I don't know.
After
Yeah,
lunch.
maybe.
Yeah. Should be all right. Should be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to get
organized.
too far ahead because, well, the problem is we just go and book too many guests.
Yeah,
that far ahead.
you're just too busy.
Well, it's
We've
not
gotta
so much
pencil
that.
us
It's
in.
like we just get a bit gun-ho, I think. And then sometimes I look at these guests that I've got on the weeks coming up and I'm like, oh, do I want to interview them? I'm like,
Yeah.
I have had that a few times.
Like
now,
us.
like,
Is that
particularly for this week.
today?
What if you get like a superstar rolling through? Like, do you just try and slam them in as quick as possible? And have you ever had a conflict where you couldn't squeeze them in because you're interviewing some lame brain from fucking Jetstar or something?
You had Gary Vee on nearly once, right?
Yeah, that look, to be honest, guys, I find that the problem is that I can't remember a life of interviewing before COVID. So that's the issue, is that I can't really remember what it was like before that. Now it's easy. Everyone says yes because what the fuck else do you have to do?
Yeah.
Like you cannot do anything but sit at home and get on Zoom calls or do work. So it's quite easy getting people on now.
Let's talk YOLO. Can we talk YOLO? Congratulations, Michael
let's do it.
Cusack. Holy shit. That blew our dicks up.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Incredible
I
work, man.
appreciate it. It was a really strange show how it even came to be in the first place, because I was just I did that Bushworld, the Rick and Morty thing, and it kind of just came from that. So it was like a fucking dream job. It was so cool.
Because I remember we saw on
thanks,
Instagram, you were over there with Mikey Cusack over in LA.
Yep.
And we were
Mikey
like,
Cusack
what
was
the
there.
fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
And then, it was a couple of months later that we heard that YOLO got picked up. So
Yeah.
talk to us. So did you have a meeting set up before you went over to LA, or did you go over there and just knock on
To
doors?
get YOLO? No. It was just like I'm friends with some of the Adult Swim people, and I just went there to hang out with them. And Mike Lazo, who's like the head of Adult Swim, he really liked Bushworld. I remember I met him, and he was like, "I watched Bushworld twice on Thanksgiving. It's my favorite thing we've done in a while." I was like, "What? Like that? You like that?" Like it was just so weird to me because it was such a spam thing. It was such a out of the blue animation that I just thought it was going to be this. I mean, it was a dream job, but I didn't think it was gonna like lead to getting a whole TV show.
Yeah.
And Mike Lazo, who's the head of Adult Swim, was essentially just like, just do more of that. Like, do more episodes of the Bushworld thing, but with different characters. And I already had the YOLO girls from the animation I did on YouTube, just YOLO, like fucking 50 years ago. And I just thought they fit the roles well. And contrasting like those kind of two-party Australian girls with the crazy world around them, I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I've always wanted to do something like that with those characters, and it just came out of that. It really was just out of the blue, but it was awesome.
Man, it was so good.
That process, do you, Lazo hits you up, you just essentially go back to him with like, I want to do this, this, and this. I guess the boys here would probably be intrigued to hear what the process was like in comparison to, say, dealing with Seven.
Leagues better than Australia. Like, so much better than dealing with, like, fucking ABC or networks like that. Adult Swim, I think it's because, you guys were with Seven Mate, so I don't know how Seven Mate is, but I've just got to think, like, it's not even like, oh, fuck the ABC. It's more like what I've found is working with Australian networks executives, or at least my experience so far, has been a thing where you're not that special. You're just like, just another Aussie who wants a show, or another Aussie. And they, and also Australians take themselves very seriously, like execs at ABC, and like so they see stuff like Siggy Butt Brain and the animations I did for YouTube, and they're like, no, this this doesn't have Australia in its best light. It's too dirty.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, really? Well, okay. They want to put on stuff that, has a more positive view of Australia. They've got their own agenda usually, but that changes too. Like, next week they could want something like a Siggy Butt Brain. But anyway, like the reason Adult Swim or American networks are so great to work with for Australian stuff, at least now, like at this current time, is they see Australians like a novelty. They saw like the animations I did as like a left field, like coming from out of the blue, like original thing that's so different from American stuff. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Like they work with that better. So Adult Swim would just like do whatever you want, basically. Like with YOLO Crystal Fantasy, it's like just make it Australian, do whatever. As long as you're making it, it's going to come out weird and Australian. So there wasn't anything like, oh no, like I had like 60 notes on Koala Man, the pilot. Like that's why it was so like stifled, and I actually just lost interest in the middle of making it because it was so noted. Yeah. So it was just so like fucked with. So I was like, I fuck this like project. It's not going to even turn out good anyway.
Adult Swim are the coolest, one of the coolest networks.
Dude, they're like they're the best. They're the best, and that's not just with Australian stuff. Like with everyone that works with them. Well, most of the time, it's just like they just give their creators so much freedom, and like I think the same thing is, from what I understand, like Netflix, I think, does this for the most part, is like they'll be really like careful on who they pick up a show with. Like they'll like really like note the pilot script, or like go back and forth a lot and be just very kind of careful on what they pick up. But once they pick it up, and once they trust the creators and the team doing it, they're mostly just like, now just do what you want. Just fall in love with it and like make the best show you possibly can. Because they understand that if the creator feels free, it's going to be a much better show. So it's such a great formula that Hollywood's getting at this point. And I guess they've done that in the past too, but Adult Swim's just the best for creative freedom.
Such a good pairing for you as well, for your style of humor and sense of humor. Like I remember looking at it going, it was incredible how well they aligned. And like we were watching it and we'd just finished our show. So we had a bit of insight as to what that process looks like. And what we both got out of it was just how fucking inventive it was. It was incredibly like fantastic in both senses of the word. Like it was a legitimate fantasy. It was so loose and just so free.
Yeah.
Ours, like throughout the whole process of just like, we had to learn basically how to do it from before we, just as we'd started, we had to basically learn how to build this thing. We'd had no experience building a TV show before. So we were like, micromanaging it. And it just was such a relief to watch a show that was just so free.
Well, that was it. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like the Australian thing. And I think because of Bushworld, see this, I'm working on another show like similar to you guys where it's a bit more structured, and that's got its benefits too. It's actually more watchable most of the time. But the good thing about YOLO, like the fact that it's all crazy and loose, it's it's probably more niche, as in there'll be a lot of people that are like, what the fuck is this? But then the people that do like it really like it. So that's what I like about the show. It's it was meant to be niche and it came out niche. It kind of just came out exactly how we all wanted it to.
And I think you had some like massive cameos in there too, like Flying Lotus, Jared Wright, and then we saw an ad.
I had to get Jared.
Man, that was great. We wondered actually how he recorded that. Did he record that in a studio or just on his like regular recording
Jared recorded that at I really wanted him to come to the studio just so we could hang out.
Yeah.
And I just thought it'd be a great energy, but it was during COVID. It's like so it was all fucked up. So he did it from I think he recorded it like in his caravan or some kind of like thing he's like traveling around in.
That like it just had that Jared Wright sound.
That was the perfect thing. It was funny because like the audio mix. So I've been mixing with this. I mixed the show with this this great place, Alchemy Sound, whatever it is in Melbourne. I remember they were like, oh, this audio, like Jared's audio was all like tinny and reverb. And they're like, oh god, this is gonna be hard to clean up. This audio's fucked. I was like, no, leave it. It's perfect. It's like
exactly.
Big Les, it's like the Big Les trademark.
Yeah,
it's perfect. And I thought it's great that you guys mentioned that because actually it came up a few times where people were like, what, like his audio is like the Red Bush Wizard is like sounds different. And I was like, no, that's perfect.
That's
like
good. It actually was great.
It has to be like that. People, Big Les show fans are totally going to pick that up and be like, wait, is that Jared? So it worked out perfectly.
Mark, you said there was a few similar topics that you guys had covered.
Dude, I got to tell you, like we were watching it. We watched the first 2 eps, and I've never been more nervous in my fucking life because our first ep has an Outback serial killer, and your episode had it as well. So like
when they got picked up in the car, we were freaking out. We're like, oh my god, he's going to do a whole concept.
That's funny because obviously that's just like Wolf Creek. That was going to it's funny you guys say that because I worry about that all the time. Like I guess all creators do, so don't worry about that at all. But
you're all comparing yourselves against each other.
Yeah.
Well, we were supposed to go on air at the same time as well. Like we were supposed to be right up again, and then we got delayed for 3 months, so there was nothing we could fucking do about it. And there wasn't even like a plausible deniability that this was parallel development. Everyone would have just thought we copied it.
Oh no, I don't think. I reckon they would. I reckon they would understand it's in the collective unconsciousness of like Wolf Creek and the killer thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the good thing with you guys is Australians are actually going to watch Stepmates. Like, fuck, dude, like this. Like, I don't even know what's going on with this deal with Adult Swim, but it can't be watched in Australia right now.
I love that you did it. Yeah.
You posted the Pirate Bay link.
I just because I'm fed up. It's like
we're not gonna lie.
Everyone always asks me like, how do I watch it? How do I watch YOLO? I'm just like, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I just usually send them the Dropbox links.
What do they tell you? What do they tell you though, Michael?
I know that it's like it's not Adult Swim's fault. Like it goes higher because like Adult Swim's owned by Warner Brothers and AT&T. It's got to like I don't know the ins and outs of it. I could research it and I probably will look into it just so I can see. I want to do the thing of like, can I talk to your manager and just get to the highest person and just be like, come on, like this is an Australian show. It should be available in Australia. Just like do a deal.
So it's got to be a licensing thing because they probably have like a distribution partner.
It'd be that. It's something to do with like
which would be Warner. Pardon?
It goes to Hulu, doesn't it?
Everything. No, but for Australia, it would be Foxtel.
Nah. Yeah, it's Foxtel. It's a comedy channel on Foxtel, but like no one. Does anyone have Foxtel except like boomers now? It's like
you can get it on Binge. Binge is like
you guys probably. Do you have Foxtel?
No, we barely watch the TV to be honest.
Yeah.
What time's your guys' show on 7, mate?
9 p.m. right after Househouse.
That's great. That's like that reminds me of like classic SBS, like South Park on late. Like you're gonna have some kids that are like gonna be staying up late, just like their parents are like go to bed. You can't watch TV after 8:30. Mom, Stepmates is on.
Hopefully, we'd just be happy if some people watched it. That would be nice. But
let's talk about the production lessons that you guys learned because this isn't Cusack's first rodeo with a network. And for you guys it was, and you had to build up a whole team around you, around actually making the show. Maybe you guys cover that, and then I'd be intrigued to hear what Cusack has done in the past and with the current show.
So we use the phrase that like on day one we were essentially 3 months behind. Like we did a bit of an audit after the first day of production and went, fuck, we're well and truly behind. Like because when we pitched the show to Channel 7, we were both working normal jobs. I was in sales and Seb was in a production company doing editing, and we were just making Stepmates in our spare time. And we never ever thought that the deal was actually going to go through with 7. We went up there and pitched it and it seemed to go well. And then we got some contracts and then we were going back and forth with the contracts and it just never seemed like it was going to happen. And then all of a sudden it happened and we had to tender our resignation and get it started. And we told them in the pitch that we had a studio built out the back. We didn't. We used to record on a fucking ironing board with like bits of foam stuck out from the top and stuff. Like we were not ready at all. When we had to sign the contracts, for example, we had to like incorporate the company and make it all happen. Like we didn't even have an ABN properly at that point either. So like that's how far back you have to go to get set up. And then was setting up, getting production managers and getting animators on board. And like the first day that the animators started, Sebi, we didn't even have computers for them.
No, they literally had a piece of paper. Like, oh, maybe you guys could just start sketching out some of these like surrounding characters.
Because we were so concerned that we're going to hire people and they weren't going to be working. So Sammy was like, just draw on bits of paper or something. So that's how far back we were. We didn't storyboard as well. That was one of the big lessons we learned, because prior to that we would just animate in the can and we would edit in the can. And it's fine when you're working with 5-minute long clips, but when you're working with 180 minutes trying to go through the one pipeline, that was heavily reliant on us two as well. And Sebi being a full-time animator, but also a writer, it meant that we just got clog after clog after clog. So we ended up we'd missed the first big deadline was like, all right, get us the final picture for episode 1. And we were nowhere near getting a final picture for episode 1. So we like scrambled some stuff together. It was like half storyboard, half picture. No lip syncing, no blinking, nothing. And we managed to get that through and got released our big bit of money, which we fucking needed to keep going. And then we sat down with the animators and we regrouped and set up a plan for getting out. And then we eventually did it, but we blew out by like 3 months. We had to hold off on telling 7 for as long as possible because we were convinced that maybe we'd catch up. And like we went for what's called a green light meeting with the guys where they were like, so how's the timeline looking, guys? And we both sort of looked at each other and went, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. It's spot on. Yeah, we'll deliver it on time. Yeah, maybe early. Fuck, why not? And then they were like, are you cool if we start running promos then? And we were like,
yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, start running promos. That'll be great. Which now it's getting like fucking everyone's hassling us because it's like over advertised.
Where is
it keeps going. It's kind of our fault, but everyone blames 7. It's hilarious. And we were staring down the barrel of like 60 grand's worth of debt because we'd blown out in time, which obviously equals money as well. And we were completely fucked. And we rang 7. We're like, hey, we need some cash. And they were like, cool, you're not getting it from us. So figure it out. So we just had to keep going. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And we got all the government stimulus and it saved our ass. So if Bogan at all gets any recognition for an award or something, I reckon we're going to have to thank China. We're going to have to thank the guy that ate the bat. 100%. Thank you. Thank you to the CCP for releasing that virus, because if it wasn't for that, we would have been fucked or we'd be in debt.
What was an official endorsement by Xi Jinping or something?
Winnie the Pooh. Just fucking Pooh Bear on there. Fucking hell. I'm intrigued.
Learned a lot.
I'm intrigued to hear from Seb on what the the different stages of how complex your production pipeline got, because, like you said, you would have started on paper.
Yeah.
And then I remember, just because I've always been intrigued from a production perspective, and, you got to a point where you're working with a team and they would have been drawing the different components and parts, and that would have scaled things massively, but that would have taken a pretty big learning curve, right?
Yeah. I mean, like we got there in the end, I think.
Storyboarding, integrating storyboarding was probably the biggest bit. Like we didn't storyboard before and we were just animating in the can. That was the hardest. That was the big step that we didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also just trying to get Sebi out of the driver's seat all the time. Like Sebi's not a very good delegator. He doesn't like giving it away.
I'm the same, man. I get it. I completely understand it's a very hard transition you've got to go from when you're so auteur. Like you guys are doing everything yourself, and you're like on top of every aspect of the show. And then you've got to get to a point you just have to where you've got to delegate, and it's one of the hardest things to let go of things. But learning delegation is as important as learning comedy or animation or any other skill, because if you get that right, then that's when you're in the leagues of like the Walt Disneys and all that kind of thing, where you can really have your team. And ideally, the point I was trying to get to with my show, and I'm sure you guys were too, where it's like the people that you delegate the jobs to actually do the job better than you can. Just by a little bit, obviously. Well, I mean, no, like as much as possible, really, because you want to realize the show to as the fullest potential you can, and a lot of that really is just through your explaining how you direct and how you delegate. So it's I get it. Like it's a hard skill.
And having the right people, as you said, is definitely important. And we were really lucky to find some animators that are working sort of in the Philippines, and they'd worked with Hanna-Barbera and stuff before, and they really held our hand through a lot of it as well. Like when we first begun, we weren't even using Toon Boom. We were actually drawing in Photoshop and then moving to After Effects. We told our animator that on the first day. He's like, guys,
not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. So we had to learn Toon Boom like straight away. So I was sort of thrown in the deep end there. But
how'd you find Toon Boom? Like, I'm so curious, like because we animated in Adobe Animate. That's how I've done my stuff, and I just forced our studio to animate in that. They really didn't want to do it, but I just knew it was going to have more of a charm if it was done in Adobe Animate. Like it would just it would negate things like puppeteering, and just like when things go through Toon Boom, like my stuff, it comes out. It seems to come out a little bit more like cookie cutter, even though the guys at like Monkey Stack, which is a great studio in Adelaide, they would have avoided that, obviously. But I just felt like Adobe Animate, it was like a spirit. It needed to be part of the DNA of this TV show, and also so I could get into the files at the end of the production and like tweak them myself. But yeah, I'm so curious. How was Toon Boom? What was Toon Boom like for you?
Man,
guys?
it was really good. And it was such a step up from what we were doing before, because we were similar. Like we always wanted that aesthetic. And that's why we did it through like Photoshop and After Effects, because we felt like there was something in drawing a bitmap image and not making it vector that did translate and did come across. Very similar to what Jared Wright did with the Big Les show and doing it all in paint. Like I don't think that guy could bring that show.
No, that has to be in paint. It's got to be the same style because it's so much part. It's so part of the vibe of the show.
Yeah, no. The one thing that stands out to me in Toon Boom as being really powerful. I'm not very familiar with Flash, but they've got like a node system for layers, basically.
Yeah. So
you can connect your layers up like a circuit rather than a stack, and that lets you do some really interesting things with cutters and deformers and that sort of a thing. It's good for scale. It's very good for scale.
Yeah, I think that's what I've always heard. And it's funny, because obviously with Toon Boom, you could probably do something like Big Les on Toon Boom and just replicate how it looks like on paint. I guess I was just like same with YOLO. It probably would have it would have turned out exactly how it would have if it was done in Adobe Animate. But I think I was always it scared me. That program freaked me out a little bit. It just seemed so fucking complicated.
Man, it's so intimidating at the start. So what, like your characters, do you have rigs or is it all paperless basically? Like,
no, it's no rigs, no copy and paste. That was a big thing with YOLO. It was everything was redrawn. So we had super rough character models of Rachel and Sarah, the main characters, and the other characters as well. But like. So it all started in thumbing and boarding. Like it was the animators just traced what we storyboarded and just did proper line work and proper color to our board. So it's a very board driven show. And there's no assets really. Like you don't drag in a drawing of one of the characters and then can copy and paste it throughout the show. So it makes it look more crafty.
Well, there's so much comedy that comes from that as well. And the one that sticks out to me is in the pilot at the end where is it Sarah? She like looks up and says thanks, or is that Rachel? In the background.
Oh, it's Rachel. Yeah,
Rachel. She looks up and she's like thanks.
Yeah, I animated that myself. Like that, I really wanted to. It's like this is why I understand with the delegation, man. It's so hard. Like I just couldn't let go, and my guys, like my storyboard artists, who are really talented and much better storyboard artists than I am, they would get pissed off at me sometimes, rightfully so, because I would refuse to let things go sometimes. I'll be like, no, I need to animate that scene like that one. I animate that and just like certain shots. Like I know exactly how it looks. I just want to do it. And they're like, dude, you're the creator of this show. You're like directing it. Like let the team do it. And they're right. They're correct. It's better to communicate that with your words than wasting hours and hours of time like drawing when you could be putting it to better use.
So would your commitment be pretty heavy into the getting it to storyboard phase? So you're there for obviously scripting and then your vocal recording.
So the way we did it, the way the line of production was we had a writer's room. Like I was kind of like the head of it, but I had like Nina Oyama, Michelle Brazier, and Greta Lee Jackson, and Lena Moon, who was a note taker, and it was kind of like this just rough writer's room where, because it was a female-driven show, I wanted to get like Aussie female comedians to just throw out a bunch of their stories of like just their experience, like because I wouldn't like genuinely I wouldn't know that kind of stuff, like going out and clubbing as a girl, so it was great to get that energy in the show, but they understood that like I would take that away and like kind of be like a bit of a control freak and turn it all into scripts and like would go back and forth. But it would then be just like I'd do the final passes basically of the scripts. And then it went to thumbing, which is, like the primitive storyboards. I would do a lot of the thumbs and that would be either on paper or in like Flash or whatever. And then I had two storyboard artists that were in this room actually before COVID hit, Nick Simpson and Michael Dockery. And Andrew Honorado, who was on and off. But they would turn my rough sketches, my really super primitive storyboards into like proper storyboards that could be then sent to the studio, Monkey Stack in Adelaide, to do the final animation. So yeah, it started from me thumbing, like because the thing I always want to get across is like the pacing, which is really important for comedy, and just like expressions too. So and you can get that out really easily in thumbing. And like the shots and the composition, just like you, because I see it like a live action thing a lot of the time in my head, like a movie. So I just want to get out the vision of that, and then it can be cleaned up by the board artists more. But yeah, that was the way we did it, and it worked out really well.
How does that compare to the, like making Koala Man and something like Bushworld? Have you had the same setup since
Bushworld
then?
Was exactly the same, as in like I thumbed a lot of it, and then animators would come in and fill in the blanks. And I was also animating shots on that as well. And I did all of the backgrounds. I didn't do all the background. I didn't draw like any backgrounds in YOLO. I just thumbed them, and then someone would come in and do the proper lines and colors. But yeah, that was the same thing where it was storyboarded and then just animated over the storyboards. But Koala Man would be different. Like if that goes to series, that's actually something where I would prefer that if I didn't even thumb that much of it, I was just more involved with the character designs and the scripts and just really like focusing on getting the scripts right. And then like obviously like voices and all that kind of thing. But storyboards, I'd rather delegate that because it's just what I learned from YOLO. It's like, it's unrealistic. Like you've got so much on your shoulders when you're like a showrunner or a creator of a show, like when it comes to just like the everything. Comedy of the show, the story, like the plot, basically. The most important thing is the plot. Like Koala Man would be much more plot heavy than YOLO. So, like Vince, what's his name from Breaking Bad, shouldn't be fucking operating the camera for Breaking Bad. He should be exactly. He should be in the HQ, really like with his focus
like a general,
on the big picture.
Well, so it gives you more leverage to be involved earlier than throughout the entire process. It's better to be focused on the first third and own that entire
it's like
part.
So you can have the blueprint there. Like the most important thing, it's like you've got to see it like a blueprint. You're an architect. You just get everything ready, like the seed ready to be grown. Like then like all the construction workers can come in and they've just got like the instructions. Like, all right, put this fucking girder down, nail that. That's the ideal thing to get to, but it's like easier said than done. Like getting the right people for delegation, getting the right team around you is a fine art. I'm sure you guys learnt that, but it's worth it when you get it right.
I think that's the idea as well. Is like particularly with us, we do like a storyboard and then we'll ship it off to animate it. And then Sebi's very heavily involved in that, and Sebi was animating at the same time as well because we had to count him as an animator as part of the to get the quotas enough to get it finished. But that's sort of where we're at now, is where we build a lot. We heavily invest into the storyboard, get the timing right, because that's the bit that, we get paid for. Essentially, that's the bit that not many people can do. And that's where a lot of the style comes from. And then it's about delegating it to people to the point where they just can't fuck it up. And the good ones, it's not that they don't fuck it up; they actually make it better. And that's about trying to find that talent that can do that,
and that collaboration too.
Totally. But speaking of fuck ups, what's sort of for both teams, both of you guys, what's been the biggest horror story you've had in a production?
I'd love to hear from the Stepmates guys. I want to.
We had a big fight. We had plenty of them. Like, we live together as well as in the studios here in the house. So like we're this far away from each other at any given moment. And our studio out the back is real close. And we had a big fight. We had some notes from the network on some character designs, and there was one line of dialogue, and they didn't want they were supposed to be drug addicts, but our animators had drawn them as homeless people. And one of the lines of dialogue was like, "Oh, if I had a house, I'd at least mow me fucking lawns." And they wanted to change that because they felt like that was implying that they were homeless, whereas that's not what they wanted. They wanted to pick on drug-addled people, not
pick on the right fucking disenfranchised people.
All right.
And I was sort of dealing with network side a bit more than what Sebi was. So I was the one that was the custodian of the note, and I needed to change it. And Sebi were sort of like this far away from each other trying to work it out. And it's like, no, we need to change this fucking line. And Pete, who's our composer and sound recordist and an associate producer, he was on the phone to his boyfriend at the time. And it was like, we're fine for 30 seconds. And then he was like on the phone for 30 seconds. And then next minute it was me standing over Seb going, fucking stand up, cunt, fucking stand up. It was so bad. And I called him the F word in front of Pete as well, it's not a good word.
Oh,
shit.
Well, he was being a bit of an F word, to be honest.
How did Pete react to that?
I think he more just stepped back. He was like, all right, boys, this one's between you.
So his reaction was great. He was just like, mate, you've lost it. You've lost it. I had at that point. But everything was like, we were blowing out in time. We were blowing out in money. We had, everything was right. The promos were running and we had no show.
And it's a pressure cooker in there too. It's any piece of emotions.
Is this in the studio out the back?
The studio.
It gets hot in there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it gets very hot. It was 35 degrees, something stupid.
Jesus.
So we're all dressed in singlets going, what the fuck? We're making, this is TV.
Where is this? Where do you guys work from?
We're in Fitzroy.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Come
were
around there and visit you guys at some point.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Fuck COVID laws. Let's do it. Beer.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah.
We're within the 5K radius. Come on over.
Yeah.
Where are you? Because you're in.
I'm in Paran right now. At least. Yeah.
Paran.
Yeah, nice.
Like, we'll be moving probably soon. Probably South Melbourne.
You or Princess?
Prince, like me. Like I'll probably be getting a different office, even though it's still associated with Princess. We'll probably move around there. But yeah, Fitzroy. That's a good area for the arts, I guess. Do you like it around there? Do you guys like the vibes north?
Yeah, mate, I got the top knot going. I'm ready to rock and roll here in Fitzroy now.
Yeah.
It'll give good inspiration for characters, right? Surely.
Yeah, we hear some stuff like it's because there's a window right here and people walk past and you can hear them. And some of the stuff you just can't write. Can't think of one off the top of my head, but just some dumb shit.
Yeah.
Did you guys have like issues with that kind of thing with Seven? I guess like notes with what you can and can't do. We
didn't have too many.
To be honest, on the back of what you were talking about, I know the ABC can be like really heavy-handed in terms of how much they want to get their hands in there and change things and talk about likability of characters and let's get diversity and whatever. To Seven's credit, they let us do whatever we wanted, really.
That's great.
There was only a few times where they looked after us. Like in a similar scene to what you had in YOLO as well with the kangaroo, to get hitting the kangaroo.
Yeah.
And we had our main character kill the kangaroo with a rock, and then, they're watching him from afar and they're looking at them mourning, and then he accidentally runs into them and kills, and there was like a murder of all these fucking kangaroos. And we went up for a meeting and one of the guys pulled us aside and he was like, look, you really can't have kangaroos getting killed like that. And I was like, mate, it's a cartoon, right? And he was like, no, but it doesn't matter. Like the RSPCA will come for you.
You should tell them to watch Wake in Fright from the 70s. There's a great scene in that where they go out and they murder kangaroos.
Well, why don't we just put a little thing at the end, like a little disclaimer saying like no animals were harmed in the making of this cartoon, just to be a smartass. And he was like, don't be a smartass, right? You need to fucking change it. I'm telling you.
He got a bit pissed off at you, did he?
Yeah. And it was great. But to their credit, then we rewrote the scene and it was actually a whole lot better. And it's the opening scene to the whole show.
Are you sure he wasn't personally offended by the kangaroo thing?
It sounds like
it was just an excuse. I feel like he's
yeah,
probably
look,
a bit
in general,
of a
they were really good, really hands off and
great.
let us do whatever. And I think that's actually how the industry is changing a bit as well at the network level. I think they're very aware that their audience is an ageist one and that they've got to adapt and they've got to change.
I mean, it's just insane to me. I feel like that it's taken this long. Like things like Big Les and you guys' stuff and like the stuff I do, it's like the audience that can grab is like so big in Australia, and it's just like ABC and all that, like they just didn't jump on it. They were like, oh, what? Yeah, no, I don't understand. Like, what, you want like dirty Deros and like rough drawn Australian characters? Like, who's going to watch that? It's like, dude, like, are you looking at like the YouTube numbers? Like, there's an audience for this stuff. So that's great to hear that Seven were on top of that, because I think it is time to get more of this stuff on TV or even just like streaming, like Stan or whatever. What other things that are available in Australia? Like, because it's just great. Like the stuff you guys do and all this, it's like it feels more Australian than a lot of the stuff that's on Australian TV.
Well,
yeah.
What's interesting is the fact that you've all now sold shows to networks, and what I'm curious to know, what will that do to social content? Like there'll obviously be up and comers making animations, but do you think that any of you will do a social only series, or what do you think?
I will personally. Like TV is a really great experience for like, furthering your career, and it's just an awesome opportunity, and I feel so lucky. But there's also an attracting aspect to doing online stuff still, and I thought that along all the way through doing YOLO and other TV stuff, where I'm just like, oh man, I wish I could just do just do like a quick YouTube series, or just like a YouTube video and just do whatever the fuck I want, because it's very liberating to still always have that just there in case you need it. That the free and open internet where you can just make anything. So personally, I'm attracted to that all the time. Like I feel like when I'm like retired, I'll probably just go back to that permanently.
Yeah, we were saying that as well when we were like pulling our hair out during production. We're like, fuck this. We're going back to YouTube. We'll make it. I'm going to make a TikTok, Mark. I'm done.
I just want to make a 15-second video again.
It's like because totally, because it's so
free.
It's so free. It's so attractive to just do what you want. Like, because a lot of the time, I'm sure you guys feel this. Like, you just want to get out an idea. And it's almost like quicker the better. Like it's like, I don't know why I chose animation, because a lot of the time when I come up with something, I just want to get it out that day. I'm very impatient. So like going through the whole like executive process and like the pitching, which can last years. And then that forever.
Just builds into second guessing yourself. And there's nothing worse than sitting on a joke for 9 months.
I know.
Writing a joke, it's just funny in the room.
Life's too short.
Oh man.
Like, I didn't get into this business to just like answer emails like every 2 weeks about like, all right, let's pitch it again, like to that network, and then maybe we can punch up the Bible a little bit more. Like that's fun for a while. It is actually a great experience. It's like, dude, like it's like fuck. It's like it's not fun. It's not a fun life.
Well, that's sort of like probably still a key issue in the industry, right? Is like this disconnect between monetization, because it's still hard to monetize on social, particularly if you've got not politically correct.
Yeah, particularly for people like the three of us. That like to swear a lot and do more like humor that borderlines on grotesque some of the times as well. It's hard to make money, and like because we had a bit of a break afterwards, and we started another pilot that we're getting up and going now, and then we've got some other little bit of paid work coming in. But then it was like, now's our time to do some social stuff. But we've also found it really hard to get out and put, we've got 4 animators working for the studio. We've got ourselves putting those people on for another Jim's video or another Dan's video. Even just trying to write for another Jim's or Dan's video is really hard now, because I think we're both pretty inclined to write narrative because we know how to do it and we like doing it. And there's a challenge to it now. And there's something about those little Jims and Dans, and I imagine it's the same with like a Damo and Darren, those moments where you can just go, fuck it, let's just see what happens.
Yep.
Like,
it's very exciting. It's a feeling that I feel like I lost or something, not lost, but just haven't done it in so long that it's hard to get back into the rhythm. Because like that, I just love those days. I'm so nostalgic of them, just being like, come up with a really weird, fucked up idea and then just do it. And then just like start making it and then release it. Now it's completely different. But I do agree with you. It's like the payoff is probably better, and it's much more challenging to write narrative, and it feels more professional. And I remember when I was, in the depths of the days of YouTube, my dream was always to be doing a TV show and be a bit more advanced to it. So I think it's just the natural progression just to go to TV and more narrative stuff.
But it's nice, like you said, it's nice to have it as a backup and as a safety
it's always
net,
there
knowing that we can always go back to it. Like it's good fun. But yeah, it's hard to do it for free as well. Like 100% for free because cheddar makes it better, boys.
With COVID, it's good. I feel like production pipelines. There's so many shows that I've watched recently that require in-person, proper narrative-based shows that they have to actually film, which is basically not impossible, but improbable at the moment. So your Netflix and Stans of the world are going to be lacking content for a good 6 to 9 months at some point next year. I feel like the start of to middle of next year is going to be very interesting in terms of content. And Mark gave me this note around this potential animation boom. We noticed it just from a marketing perspective in like probably April, May, the amount of how much it switched obviously from just doing in-person video to animations and live. Do you guys think that there's going to be some sort of mini boom in animation over the next year or so?
We're already in it. 100%.
I reckon we're in the start of it, like a renaissance. I totally think that. It's what all the network executives are saying. Because like you say, because of COVID, all the live action productions have had to shut down, and anything that they had in development has just basically been shelved. So every network, every production company is turning to their animation stuff that they had on slate, or at least just scouting for it. So, God, there'd be so many animated TV shows right now in production that we wouldn't even know about.
They're going to come out in like a year or two.
They'll come out probably post-COVID, but it'll be a big wave of it, I reckon.
Yeah. Are you all pitching? Like you guys mentioned before, you're pitching a pilot for something.
Yep.
For Stepmates. So you're working on production at the moment, aren't you, Cusack?
Yeah, I'm working on a few things. I can't really talk much about them, just because of like fucking dumb legal stuff that I always never know what I can say. But like, yeah, like just little things here and there that are not. It's not like full in swing yet, but definitely like the early stages. But I've experienced it myself where it seems like a lot of the people that I was talking to pre-COVID are much more excited now when like it's like the only thing that can be done right now is animation. So they're just like, okay, can you make something like right now? Can you make a show? Just fucking anything. So it is a good time.
I'm just not sure whether it's ultimately a good thing, because I remember there's already been a bit of fatigue with animated shows, and I think it's what was the show, the one with the dogs that got hammered?
Dogs.
Space Dogs or something. Space Dogs. No, it was like some fucking Netflix show.
Was that? Are you talking about Final Space? No, that's Adult Swim, isn't it?
Something like that, though.
Give me something else that's
Detective Dogs. Inspector Dog or something. In space, maybe. I don't know. It's like.
That's like a network executive just looking at his dog and being like, I don't know, let's make a show about
dogs
that.
In space. Fucking,
there's been a couple. There's
Pacific. Was it Pacific something?
Pacific Rim? Oh, no, sorry, not Pacific Rim. Are you talking about the Australian one that was on Netflix?
Oh, is that the
Archer ripoff?
Oh, the Archer.
Yeah, the Archer ripoff. Yeah,
the Working Dog one, guys.
Yeah, I mean Working Dog. They're a great company. I love them.
Yeah,
we've got some ideas for Working Dog.
I can't remember. It was something about a dogs or something in Netflix, and everyone's saying, and Central Park on the Apple one.
Apple, yeah.
And everyone's like, this style, I've seen it before. It's fucking bullshit. Like people are already getting a bit of fatigue around that.
Yeah, it's a good time for like people like us that can like work, obviously, but I think you're right. Like, it might be a very oversaturated market. But yeah, like, it's definitely going to feel like that. I reckon in like a year, God, the wave of animations.
Yeah, it's just going to be pumping out.
Michael Hutchinson's, Hutchinson's Space Dog Days.
Space Dog
It's definitely
Days.
not
It's that,
Space
or it's Dogs in Space, which is a 1986 Australian film set.
Maybe it's that.
I think from the perspective of you guys, you just got to harvest while you can. You got to maximize this, and you'll probably go back to another fucking 5-7 years of sticking on YouTube, but hopefully you've made your money during this boom period, and people look at you guys as the ones that stand out during it.
Like Gary V, Jordan. You're pumping me up, mate. Now's fucking go time, you dickheads.
Hustle porn.
Fucking get up your fucking fat asses and do something, you fucking piece of shit.
It
Michael, can
works.
you talk about YOLO too? Do we know what's happening?
Yeah, YOLO dudes.
What's that? You're like the
second
season?
season. If there's a second season, yeah.
Oh yeah, like
Oh yeah.
it's actually well, no, like it could happen. Like we've been in like minor talks about like maybe, but I feel like just after I finish something, it's like having spaghetti every single night. For dinner. Just like after a while, you're like, I can't even fucking look at spaghetti. Like, no way. Like, that's how I feel with YOLO. I'm very burnt out from it creative wise, and I've just moved on to my other projects to think about. But yeah, if something sparks, if it feels like there's a worthy reason to do a season 2, I'll definitely do it. But right now, I'm fucking. It's the last thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No more spaghetti. No more bolognese, please, mum.
What have we had now? We've had 3 months away from it, and we're starting to think about like we wouldn't mind going again.
We wouldn't mind some spaghetti.
So I wouldn't mind some spaghetti.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because I feel like we've also learned all our mistakes in season 1. So it's like, well, like even though it was like hell and we're pulling our hair out, it's like, fuck, we could do it so much better now. Like,
yeah, there's definitely that temptation, isn't there? I've read this a lot about movies and TV shows. At the end, the whole crew, because you get like so friendly with the crew, and it's all set up and the pipeline is done. When you finish the last episode and you've got that like wrap up feeling, there's almost that other feeling that's like, oh, we could just keep going. We could just have this as a company, like a factory that just keeps churning out episodes forever because we've gotten it down. So when you lose that momentum, it's like kind of like daunting to start it all up again. So I feel like the best time to do a season 2 is just like right after season 1, like just literally carry straight on.
I want to touch on COVID. You guys mentioned before, not essentially, but it did.
It did. It 100% saved our ass.
did.
If it wasn't for COVID, we'd be in 60 grand's worth of debt, 70 grand's worth of debt.
You were walking around at one stage where you're being like, fuck, if only there was some sort of worldwide pandemic.
If only there was some kind of plague from China that would come to save us.
Yeah, just help us with a delay a little bit.
I felt really bad about it because I was on for a walk and I was like, it would be really great if we could just get some sort of like, if the studio could get destroyed, like there was some sort of like September 11 sort of.
Did you really think that? Did you pray for this too?
I wanted some sort of worldwide fucking.
Is this all your fault?
Yeah.
Have you done like some kind of voodoo or some shit?
Yeah. Definitely is.
And then it was looking good, and then we got all the stimulus, and then I was like, at one point when Melbourne's numbers were really low, I was like, geez, we could go with another wave.
That's so funny.
To get some more stimulus. And then it happened.
Lo and
then we
behold.
were fucked. And then we ultimately had to pay for it because like when we delivered the show, the night we delivered, we couldn't have anyone in the house and we couldn't leave more than 5 kilometers.
The saddest rap party you've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember having this is why it's good, planning your calendar events ahead. I asked when the rap party's going to be, and it comes up in my calendar, and that was probably number 2 or 3 of my top 3 most depressing moments during the lockdown. That, not seeing family and having my 30th lockdown, missing that rap party, because that would have been intense.
I remember even like all of us, we were going to meet. Remember?
We were going to get dinner in March. I remember, Cusack, you came over. That was the day that Trump fucking blew some bloke up in Iran.
Iran, yeah.
We
thought that was going to be the biggest thing of the year. We didn't know anything.
Yeah. Whoops.
We're freaking out thinking World War III's fucking happening, and then like we're wanting to take breaks mid-episode to check Twitter, see what the fuck's going on. And then, mate, that was nothing in comparison to what this is.
We had no idea.
We never
were going to hang out. right when it started, right? Like that was. I think I actually caught it off because I was like, "Fuck!" Like it's like in Melbourne, like it's spreading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought that's probably why you probably delivered your show on time and we were late, is because we were like, oh, let's go to dinners. Like, this will be great. And you're like, oh, no, boys, I got to work. Come on.
You sat there stressed the entire time, like every minute mattered.
Yeah.
When it came to like delivery in 3 more months, it's like, no, every minute matters. Every minute matters. Like, you couldn't even enjoy the
No,
menu.
but you know what? It's like on reflection, like it's funny you say that. Like after the show, I've had this kind of, I guess you could say like realization, or like trying to, like after I finish any project, I try to look at it like an autopsy. Like, all right, not that I fucked up or anything, but also just being like, what could have I done better, and what can I improve on for next time? And one of the things was like just like that, like just go on more dinners and treat yourself more. Actually, take weekends off. I wasn't doing that. And the thing is, like, you always think you're busy. You're like, fuck, well, I'm so busy. But a lot of the time you're not. You're just stressing. So, like, I don't know. This happens to me a lot where, like, my mum will call and I'll be like, oh, I'm just so busy. Like, I can't talk long. But it's not true. I'm just sitting there just, like, thinking and, I guess, just, like, putting off the work. And I'm just so stressed. And, just taking like weekends off to recharge and
it's so important, man.
So important.
It's so goddamn important for it being like the head of a TV show like that, because everyone's relying on you, and you've got to have your mental health in check and be chilled out and not like fucking close to a heart attack. So go on dinners, I reckon.
Before we were all in lockdown, Cusack, what was your go-to thing to do in Melbourne on a chill weekend?
Nothing. Like I don't seriously. I haven't experienced Melbourne, and
wow.
And it's a detriment because I'm trying to write something that's based in Melbourne now, and just for the challenge. And I feel like I know Wollongong like off the back of my hand because I grew up there, but Melbourne I'm not that well versed in, like in terms of like the suburbs and the things to do when you go out. So yeah, I guess the main thing would be like just hanging around Paran. Like I'd go to the Lucky Cock in Paran, or like even like Revs,
yeah,
like
Thursday night cheap pizzas.
Yes,
I've learned that culture is like the South culture. I've learned like the Paran stuff, but like I want to get more around like Fitzroy and like the hip areas. I just haven't had the chance.
Come on up, we'll show you around.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
When this is all done, we need to give you a proper show of Melbourne. Take you down to the Peninsula one weekend.
I'd actually love that.
Would.
That'd be
Wine and dine. It's getting hot.
Boys night out.
Go to Dalesford, get a spa.
Burn Springs.
What do you guys think about, like, it's really obviously hard to get a soundbite and predict what the fuck is going to happen this Sunday. I get a sense probably last weekend, maybe the weekend before, the population here has flipped in terms of being on board with what's going on. How do you guys see the next few months here in Victoria versus the rest of Australia?
I think people have given up already. Like I go for a run every Saturday, and Sebi went for a picnic on Saturday. It was like a fucking music festival at Edinburgh Gardens over the weekend. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. Regardless of what happens on Sunday, I think people have already, we're just giving up. We're just going, nah, fuck it. Who cares? If we've got 14 cases, we've got 14 cases. People are in the UK where they get 4,000 cases a day, and they're allowed to go to the pub. We've got to learn to
everyone
live with
knows
this now.
that. I mean, it's like, I want the cases to get down to zero like everyone else, but I mean, I don't think this is an excuse to like go out and be stupid, but the unfortunate thing is everyone knows that when that time comes around, when the restrictions are eased, there's going to be more cases. Like there's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Just by the law of statistics, law of averages, a lot of people have COVID and they're not getting tested. So, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. There's a chance that won't happen. But, yeah, I think you're right. I think right now people are just checking out. But at least people are wearing masks and, doing that kind of thing. Melbourne's been pretty good at that.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you think you'll all do outside of your 5 kilometre bubble? What do you want to be able to do?
I just want to go to a restaurant again. That's all I want to do is just go out for dinner.
Yeah, I want to pine at the pub. Just perch up at a pub.
I have dreams about it.
Yeah.
Just like having can you imagine? It'll be like VR. It'll be like, it's like heaven. It's going to be like heaven because it's like you're back with all your friends again.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you guys feel this. I just feel like it must be some kind of instinctual thing. But do you guys feel like you're at the end of your life because of all this? Like it's like everything I've experienced.
I did at the start when COVID was coming and the numbers were just rising up. I'm like, oh, I've had a good run.
Because you guys say like, oh, I can't wait for a pint with my friends, can't wait for a restaurant. In my mind, it's like, oh, that's never going to happen again. Like I've had those experiences.
I've got that mindset as well. Like I can't see a life or a world. Like we've got our wedding coming up in April, and I cannot for the life of me see that going ahead right now. Like I just can't.
April
because of COVID.
We'll be fine.
Right, Jordan?
You should be fine.
Yeah.
It's COVID, not the relationship.
I reckon too. What's going to happen? It's going to be a weird phenomenon, and I think this is going to happen all around the world. I think when the clock ticks over to 2021 on New Year's, there's going to be a different perception of COVID because I feel like everyone, even like the people that are very like big on isolation and quarantining and like staying inside and like stop the spread. I feel like even those people are going to be like, nah, fuck this. Like I'm going outside more. I'm going to like resume my life again because people will be like, it's 2021. Like this is a fresh start. I feel like we're going to all feel that at the start of the year, even though obviously there'll still be a lot of cases and probably more spikes. I think next year is going to feel a little bit different.
It's just so sad. It's like, I remember like it really started kicking in around February, March. Like I was in a wedding up in Sydney and they had some people from China there because the bride and groom were working in China and we're all making jokes about, oh, there's no coronavirus here, ha, ha, ha. And then, March hit and it was like, fuck, this is the most deadly thing ever. And then like Dan Andrews the other day was just talking about, it's like, oh, I just want to make sure we all make it to Christmas and we can have a decent Christmas. I was like, the year's done, isn't it? Like, fuck, 2020.
It was all gone. But I mean, at least it's like the good news is, I don't know, like silver lining type thing is like all of us, I guess, got a lot of work done. And I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
At least we could still like, can you imagine if we didn't have the internet? I know it's been said by a million people, but fuck man, like.
Oh yeah. If this was like 20 years ago.
It would have been just world changing in a whole different way if we couldn't even talk to each other. And
well, I don't think we would have there wouldn't have been a lockdown the way we've had it. It's just as simple as that.
I think you're right.
It couldn't have happened.
Schools would have been fucked. Like, could you imagine if they got your schoolwork sent?
No Zoom.
Like,
no Zoom.
It would have fallen apart.
A world without Zoom. Oh, no, I can't even imagine it. Dude, I was
Thanks
in
again
America.
to Zoom for your sponsorship of this wonderful podcast. Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy to think about. I was in America when it was breaking out. Like I actually went to America when I already knew that like COVID was starting, but I just thought it was going to be like SARS, as in like, or like swine flu, where it's like, oh yeah, new kind of thing that just like comes up and like you'll forget about it in 6 months to a year. It'll be contained. Like, I don't know why I was just so blasé about it. I guess was everybody? I think everyone kind of was. Right?
I remember thinking this is going to be nothing. I remember thinking like you. I thought because I've got a mate who's an epidemiologist, and he's like, based on all these factors, it probably won't become too serious. But I think because it happened in China, no one really knew what was happening. That it was all sort of a bit of a take a punt. As to what
it felt
this
eerie,
thing
didn't it?
was.
I remember there was an eerie vibe. I think like everyone kind of was like, "What happens if this like takes over?" Like there was this thing where because like every day you check the news, it was like, "Oh, there's more cases in China, more cases."
Yeah.
Oh
wait, there's cases here.
Oh, there's one in America. Holy fuck, this is about to blow up. I reckon the day that was really scary for me was when Trump shut down travel to Europe, and he got on there like my fellow Americans. Like it was very like out of like a movie. It felt like Independence Day, and the camera zooming in. And then that same day, Tom Hanks got it too.
Yeah,
I remember that. Like me and my storyboard artists, we were working on YOLO at the time. We're just like huddled around the computer, like fuck, man, this is like
Tom
a thing
Hanks.
we're gonna go
If we can
through.
get Tom Hanks, we can get anyone.
You can get Tom Hanks, you can get anyone. Oh god.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that day my storyboard artists went home and they worked from home for the rest of the show. So you guys praying for your savior for COVID helped for fucking us up a little bit. Nah, it's all right. We dealt with it. It was fine.
Speaking of America, do you guys like for Stepmates? Do you think you'll be able to, or is there a goal to sell the show to a US network?
We're hoping to. The thing is, it's in Seven's hands because they own the IP, and that was part of the the benefit for us as well was, having regular Old Bogan with Channel 7 was that then it got taken by their sales team and their connections to try and get it onto a platform or get it some sort of global deal for broadcast. And we were hoping to snag a pre-sale, but because I think the actual quality of the episodes when they weren't quite finished yet, when they were sending them out to different places, I don't think it was particularly appealing. And I'm thinking probably they need to see what ratings look like. But I know that we were pretty close to snagging one with Hulu, I think.
Yeah, right.
Which would have been awesome. And that's obviously big for Channel 7 as well, because I think this is something that most people, when they think about pitching a show, is you've got to think about its sellability.
The price.
Constantly. It's not just about the pitch. It's got to keep selling itself behind closed doors without you there. And then it's also got to sell itself with someone else selling it for you. So you've got to try and think of a format that can keep doing that and is quite pitchable by other people as well. And
that's also a network thing though, right, as well. Like I feel like with Cusack's, your thing is very Aussie, right? And it's a network that is American and loves that.
Want that,
yeah. Whereas 7, I can see, because this is a thing that just happens in Australia. If you want to do a cartoon based on football, well, they tell you no, it can't be on AFL. It has to be on soccer.
Yeah.
To be able to be marketable to
I've got
the
to
rest of the
say, Michael, like what you Gundawindi, and there was a few other references to that as well that were like, that was so refreshing that you didn't hold back on the Australian references. That was something that was really cool.
Yeah, that was an important thing from the beginning, and thank God for Adult Swim, because that's exactly what they wanted to. Their whole philosophy is the more they don't understand, the better, which works for my benefit, because
I think that's good.
I'm big on wanting to reference real places and real things, even though YOLO is very much like a fantasy surreal show, so a lot of it isn't actually based on like genuine Australian things, but things like Gundawindi and like I love doing that kind of stuff, like the real references, and Adult Swim love that too, because it's like, I don't know what Gundawindi is, like
but it's a real thing, and
it sounds hilarious.
I've heard it said like before, it's like if you've got a camera in like a doctor's surgery, it's like you don't want to dumb down the dialogue in there so everyone understands it. You want to hear what the doctor's actually saying, even if you don't understand it, because it's real, and that's the thing that's gonna be interesting.
That's a great point. And also you don't need, exactly what you say. You don't need to understand it. And you're even making it for that one doctor. Well, I guess a lot of doctors would watch that movie too, whatever you're talking about. But you want them to be like, oh, sweet. They got it right. Like they actually care about that.
Yeah, and people have phones now, and they'll just look it up. I find that also, I would be
so embarrassed. I want to do any Australian show that I make for America. I want Australians to be proud of it. Like that's actually like one of my priorities. It's like I feel like I'm
repping the country,
representing Australia. It's like I'm a tourist agent or something. It's like I'm trying to sell Australia. So like I would hate it if Australians were like, that's not us, or like they're like, it's the same way like everyone doesn't like Jim Jeffries in Australia when he went to America. Like I don't want that.
Our biggest struggle was any trademark that we wanted to be able to use. So the big one was like we had a Centrelink episode where our little daughter character sells junkies jars of her own piss so that they can pass the drug tests. And we weren't allowed to say Centrelink. We had to say welfare. And it was kind of a bit of a back and forth on that one, because like no one in Australia calls it welfare. It's just Centrelink or the dole. And we couldn't say the dole because then the US wouldn't get it. Welfare was the only word that we could get away with.
Dude. So how did you settle that? What did you have to say?
We avoided saying it as much as we could, and then we said welfare when we had to.
That is like my big thing. That's the thing I like get really like strong about. I'm like, nope, sorry. Like, because my argument is always I've watched The Simpsons since I was a kid, and I've had to deal with hearing things like Congress and the president and DMV. And like Ralph's like all this stuff that I didn't understand, but I still learnt it, and it just became. It was just obvious too. It's like you don't there as a kid. You don't hear something that that's anything, like an English show or an American show. You don't hear something that's different to you and you're like, oh, I can't relate, therefore I have to shut down and turn this off immediately. It's like, just accept it. You accept it. Like, outside my realm of understanding.
Why do you think that happens here? Like, why are they so obsessed with that here in Australia?
Because they make their money from selling abroad, so it's just a fear thing.
Yeah. It's insecurity.
We're also a contradiction. Like, we're very proud of ourselves, but we also hate ourselves.
Yeah.
We're like a high school. Like, Australia's like the high school where there's different cliques, and it's like, it's bitchy, and it's like small, like, and the people that are in charge of a lot of the media here, they don't want to put across like how it really is. They've got like this other version of Australia in their mind. So things like Centrelink, they're like, oh no, we don't want to mention that. That's like, it would trigger them. It's just like, oh, like I was on Centrelink and I don't want to think about Centrelink. Like I've heard welfare in another movie. Let's go with that. Like it's just, they're like embarrassed of Australia. I really do think that.
Well, you mentioned that before, Fair, when we're talking about Friendly Geordies and like how he's really changed the way that people address politics in Australia, and he just doesn't give a fuck. He just says it as most people think it. Like it's quite egalitarian.
Friendly Geordies is very aware of this vibe in Australia that's almost like an us and them, and not so like, oh, it's like a war, but there is a constituency in Australia that grew up with The Simpsons. They're like millennials. They ate fucking shapes in primary school and like everything that Friendly Geordies makes fun of, like that kind of thing. But those people, I guess, like they're not represented that much in both the political sphere and the media sphere. To get into like everyone that works at the ABC is like a lawyer, and they're usually from England. It's like they come in from such a different. They didn't go to Centrelink. They didn't like catch the bus. For a lot of their time, have shitty experience. They didn't live in like fucking like Reservoir and like suburbs like that in Melbourne, or like shitty suburbs, and like have that experience. They didn't work at Macca's for a year. Like all those people don't know what Australia is actually like. They've got a very warped perception. They're not bad people. They've just it's strange that they always talk about things like diversity, but they don't really have a proper diversity of like culture, I think, in the upper realms of. I don't really know much about the political sphere here. Like I'm not an expert in it. I'm more of like the media, and that's just how it feels in the media world here.
What's your quote on the ABC? It's like everyone.
Yeah, I remember when we first were coming up, and there was a guy that was an industry guy that was just like, everyone wants to work for the ABC. Except for people who are currently at the ABC.
Dude, fuck the ABC. Like we all have this nostalgia of the ABC because we grew up with Johnson and Friends and like Kath and Kim. Like I love that stuff. I love Big Girls Blouse. I love Kath and Kim. It like made me who I am today. So that's why I was always like, I'd love to have a show on ABC. I know I can do it. Like I know that it'd be a hit because I'm just such a fan of this, and I'm so in love with Australia, and the shit I had to go through them and the hurdles, and just it demoralized me so much, and other people I know. So it's not the same thing anymore. Like just YouTube and the internet is the best way to get stuff across.
Man.
It's like a renaissance right now.
You keep a committee as well. It's just designed by committee.
And when
designed by committee is probably the best term. I mean, we all have just a nostalgic view of it. I mean, when that pendulum remix of the ABC News theme came out. You just have a distorted view on what the ABC is in particular, but what it was.
I sometimes used to listen to that Pendulum ABC remix when I was like potentially going to work with the ABC, and it just get me excited. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be like one of the Chasers, or like Kath and Kim. I'm in that league now. Like that to me, that was so important. It's like to reach that. It's like holy fuck. It's like you've made it, but it's not those days anymore. Those days are long gone.
The application forms, like, the first question is like, how Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander are you? The next question is, how female are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And then by the time we've answered 3 questions, which are really just basically our name, gender, and race, we're out of the fucking pool of anyway.
You can tell that they don't like you. Like if you've got a
I like reading the form. They're like, nah, they're so much gender and race.
the feeling I get with working with those kind of people and like bureaucrats, and not just the ABC, but just like people like that, it feels like I'm back in school again. It feels like I'm talking to like my high school teacher that hates me because I draw like on the notebook and I don't do homework. It's this feeling of, it's just like this weird power feeling. It's like you don't want that when you're trying to make comedy and
it's so
art.
humorless.
Hey,
so
Michael, this was a couple of years ago. I think it might have been when you were making Koala Man, but we heard a rumor that you used to drive people fucking bananas because you'd prefer to work at night, and all of these executives would try and send you email after email during the day, and they would go fucking insane because you'd never get back to them.
That could be true. That could be. I mean, yeah, probably is. I'm fucking awful on email a lot of the time. I'm either really good where I'm like responding straight away when I get it, or I just leave it for 6 months. And I mean that also depends on how like over the actual thing I'm working on at the time is. Like I can't remember, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
You were pretty responsive to us, but I can imagine when you have someone like that on your back, you would get. I would get pissed off with that. I get asked.
It also like fuck man. Like I've learned a lot too in the last few years. Like I was probably pretty green then and like inexperienced and didn't realize like the importance of email etiquette and all that type of thing. So I feel like I'm better now, but that's funny. Like I kind of hope it's true.
What's worse, do you think? Film school or working with the ABC?
Fuck. Jesus Christ. What a question. That's hard.
Film
school was not that bad. It's not like offensive. It's actually kind of interesting. Like I remember on the last podcast I did with you, I said like I learned nothing from it. That's not entirely true. You know, they do some good stuff where like some drawing rules that I didn't know about perspective. I remember I learned some stuff about that.
Did you do animation, like an animation course?
I did. So in New South Wales, they've got a TAFE course. Well, they did, called like Screen and Media.
Yeah.
And like it, because I've always wanted to be in film and animation. At the time specifically like filmmaking.
Yeah.
And that course, I just thought I'd be around people that really want to do that too. But what I found was I was around people that didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. So they were just doing this because it was something that sounded kind of interesting.
I had the
so
same
they were kind of like
well.
drop kicks. And I don't mean that to say like, oh, they were like povos or anything. They were just people that weren't interested in the subject. Yeah. So they're just like talk all lesson or like they didn't give a fuck. And that rubbed off on me. It was a shitty environment, and I'm like that. When I comment on film school, it's kind of warped and probably not that correct because a proper film school like AFI or those kinds of ones mostly in America would probably be. I'm guessing that'd be amazing. Like I actually think you'd come out there being a much better filmmaker, but I don't know. Like I just find that learning the way I did it seemed to work out fine for me too, just like YouTube and books and all that kind of thing. I think I'm personally better at learning in solitude than learning like in classes and around people. But but like when you ask that what's worse, I think ABC's worse. Like I'm just done with that. Kind of shit.
Bad as it was, ABC's probably worse. I think
they're not like also like they're not the worst thing ever, but it's just. I just wish, like, if they did what I wish they learned from America when it comes to, like, all right, you find someone that's got some talent and they've got an audience, and then just let them make what they want to make. You know, like, of course, have some notes about, like, oh, you can't say that, or maybe let's figure this out. But at least in my experience, it doesn't seem that way at all. That they're very much in charge of how they want it to turn out.
Yeah.
I think uni and school, the changes during COVID's been interesting. Like I don't know about you, Seb, but I think what I'm thinking about with film school and uni and those sort of things is you're not getting your bang for buck.
No, not at all. No, and well, the one I went to was so overpriced. And
I look at America, and America's, you know, they've had these waves of COVID, and all these Ivy League schools are basically gone online.
Yeah,
and you're paying. You know, if you're doing a law degree at Harvard, you're paying like $250,000 or something.
Yeah.
At least in Aussie dollars.
Film school is definitely the collaboration between the people that you meet there.
Yeah.
Like that's the most that I got out of it.
Which you could argue that you can get if you just get out there and start creating on YouTube anyway.
Exactly, yeah, and meet other YouTubers and do that sort of thing.
What's interesting is, so we've started managing some talent with the agency, and we manage this. At the moment, we only have one creator, and she's young. She's 17. She's a huge creator on TikTok, and just the way that she approaches it, she only does homeschooling, so she can like maximize how much time she's creating.
Yeah,
and the way that they collaborate and work with people, like they'll just hire. This is just before COVID. Like, one of the parents will come along and they'll hire out like an apartment on Airbnb in Docklands or whatever. Like her older sibling is involved as well, and they'll just get a bunch of these creators in Melbourne and Sydney. Some of them will fly down, obviously, and just get in there and they'll just riff on shit, and they'll spend the entire weekend just making stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
And it costs them like $1,000 maximum. Your food, your accommodation, all that, and by the end of it, it's like going through a semester at uni or VCA or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, basically, all film schools are a facilitated practice.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just someone looking over your shoulder and making sure that you actually do what you were supposed to do. And you can get any of that done by getting a job in the industry, which is obviously harder and then if you treat yourself as your own boss.
But a lot of those people who facilitate it are so disconnected from the real world. That was the interesting thing for me doing commerce and finance, is like how it's like 5 or 7 years behind what's actually happening.
Yeah,
we'll be doing
also,
a course
they don't teach you how to fail. Like that's I think,
That's right.
I think failing is like the fertilizer for learning in this arena, at least.
Especially for film students, because they're so arrogant, and I know because I used to be one. They just think they're like God's gift to the world, and then you really need to be humbled.
Yeah,
it's the same with acting.
I actually think like it's fine. Yeah, to be humble. Exactly. It's good to have like a big ego, I guess, or like when I say big ego, I mean like you've got a vision and you want to execute it, and you're not like meek about it. You're not like, I don't know if I can do it. You're like, no, fuck it. I've got something I want to do, and I want to actually do it. Like, that requires some kind of confidence. But it's also like you say, that humble thing. You really got to be fine with failing, and just get over that fear, because it doesn't matter. And in fact, if anything, it's really, really beneficial to learn from that. And everyone's going to fail. Like it's going to happen to you eventually.
Yeah.
So
we used to say it plenty of times. It was like, it's time to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off again.
That's our motto.
That's almost our motto.
Yeah.
And that's, it's what you have to keep doing. The problem with film schools as well is they sell you the dream. They sell you, if you come to school, you'll be in Hollywood in 6 to 12 months. You'll be
so dumb.
You'll be a filmmaker. You'll be this. Like, a filmmaker makes films. That's as simple as that.
They need to treat it like a trade. I think it needs to be like trade school. Like,
I think so.
You point a camera. This is how you can go and be useful on someone's set. It's not like you're going to be.
It's funny you mentioned it, because that was what I thought. Like, I remember I still have this diary. Like, it was the only time ever up to that age that I'd ever written in a diary. And it was literally one page, and it was me ranting about the fact that you couldn't do some form of trade or cadetship to get into the sort of areas that I wanted to work in. You had to go and spend 3 years, doing some sort of degree, which you're paying 30 grand for, 25 grand or whatever it worked out to be. Like, I will always remember being in this finance class. I just found it odd being in uni, doing this course on like raising debt or payments or whatever, and no coverage of Bitcoin, which I work as well in that area now. But all the students were talking about it. It's all they would talk about is Bitcoin and crypto back in 2000.
They wouldn't teach any of the subject matter.
12, 13. Yeah. So that's my experience of uni and why I fucking hated it. All right. Some quick fire questions. Let's start with Cusack. What have you been watching, I guess, during this lockdown period?
What have I been watching? Just lately, a lot of like A24 movies. The ones I hadn't seen while like they came out during production, like Lighthouse, and like Midsummer.
Oh yeah,
and also like Greta Gerwig movies. I'm going back to like the mumblecore phase of filmmaking in New York in like the mid 2000s to early 2010s, and just discovering some gems.
Have you seen Hereditary?
Yeah, not too.
Have you
what's
seen
that?
Hereditary?
Yeah, I love Hereditary. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so
Midsummer was fucking
It wasn't as good.
intense. It wasn't as good. Yeah,
Well,
you're
not
right.
as good.
You're definitely right.
I still, I didn't. Midsummer is like I saw it had issues, but it's one of those films where at the end I still kept thinking about it, and like it was just like stuck in my brain for a while, and I was like, oh, that must mean
Uncut Gems was fucking unreal. That was good.
That was an
I
interesting
wasn't that
one.
much of a fan of Uncut Gems.
Really?
I didn't really like it. That
I
much.
chucked it on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because it was so hyped. It was like super hyped when it came out, and I was just like really. And everyone kept saying to me, well, like not everyone, but one person that I know was saying, "Oh, it's heaps like your animations. It's like really like this new type of filmmaking where it feels really like crazy paced and it's got an animation
there's
surreal
nothing like
vibe."
it.
And when I watched it, it didn't really have that. And yeah, it was alright. Maybe I'll need to watch
I
it.
chucked
was
it
'cause
on
they
one
said
night when I just wanted to like watch was it like an Adam Sandler film? I had no idea, no expectations.
Really?
Going on.
You thought it was gonna be
I
like
just chucked it on
Waterboy?
one night in bed, watching it on my phone, and I thought I was gonna have a fucking anxiety attack. Like it was not the sort of film that I wanted to go to sleep to.
It was intense. Very intense.
I'm gonna say his performance was
Yeah, he
great.
did really well.
He did
Yeah.
a fantastic.
It was
job.
very, very good. Mark, Seb, what have you guys been watching?
I watched Hamilton the other day, which was pretty funny. I'm a big fan of musicals anyway, but we had Palm Springs,
Oh, Palm Springs is amazing.
best film of the year, I reckon,
So good.
100%.
It's like a wacky take on, not a wacky, like a modern take on Groundhog Day.
So good.
So good. I've been watching The Boys, which is just my favorite show at the moment. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
It's you'll either like it or you'll hate it. But if you like it, I reckon you'll love it.
Yeah, Succession, I would recommend to anyone.
So
That's
good.
a good show.
Succession and Barry, they're the two best live action.
everyone's
I also
about
watched
those ones.
Mad Men. So we watched Mad Men, then Succession, and we haven't. Well, I've really struggled to find something anywhere near as good since then.
Succession's awesome. Bore on the floor.
Or on the floor.
That's how we want to run.
Come on,
Stepmates.
piggies.
That's how we always envisioned it. Like we just
Bore on the
we
floor
want to
shit.
run it just like that.
No, I love that. That guy. What's his name? Smart. Is it Jeremy Smart? No, that's not the character.
Big Dog.
The big dude.
Yeah.
Family cast. Hey,
geez.
the redhead Shiv. She's an
Yes.
Aussie actress.
Snook.
Yeah.
Is that her
Snook,
name?
yeah,
Snook.
that's
Snook.
Yeah.
Snooky.
Yeah, old Snooky.
Is this like a Netflix show or an
Schmucky.
American?
It's HBO, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
ripper. It's really,
Really
fun.
good, man.
What's the log line?
It's like Rupert Murdoch. It's
Yeah.
like a Rupert Murdoch.
Media mogul family.
mogul.
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
It's
is
like
it
Rupert Murdoch's
slightly
family.
based on Rupert Murdoch, and he's like empire and like who's going to get
the
the
Succession.
which
But
one of
it's
his kids gonna
so
be. Yeah, I heard about
it's
that.
not politically correct. It's how you would imagine they would be, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
Very,
Is it
very
Tom? Tom, my favorite character of all time.
Yeah.
Such a good
Tom
character.
Womskans.
Which one?
It's like Tom and Greg. It's the
yeah,
Yeah.
Tom and Greg. That's
You
it,
can't
Greg.
make. What was
Oh,
it?
so
You
good.
can't make a Tomlet without a few Gregs.
yeah.
And he sent that email to him like 50 times. Like, fuck, that is such a,
It's such a
a
good
great
show.
moment. What's been your go-to items in the fridge during lockdown?
Go to item.
Beers.
God.
And
Those
Almond.
beers or
Some
beers?
beers, some wines, some whinies. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been having like fucking like smoothies every day, just trying to get healthy. Like, because Uber Eats, I feel
Yeah.
I don't know about you,
Yeah,
but I've been too big on that in quarantine, so I'm trying to subvert that and get healthy.
Someone needed to stop me
How
when
can-
it came to Uber Eats.
Yeah, yeah.
The kilos. You were looking fucking jacked in LA though, mate.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. We were
Yeah.
like, oh,
No
yes,
way.
Michael Cusack was looking good in those.
Fucking
LA
really
shots.
swell on.
I reckon it was cool. It was probably just because I was like sometimes going to the gym before
Yeah.
lockdown. That's all gone.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That's those days are long gone. I've like piled on the Macca's fries. Have gone straight to my stomach. It's all gone.
Fuck, that's gold. What's been our best purchase during this isolation period?
Ooh. Got a good guitar. I got a
Hey, what about your camera
Jazz
rig?
Master.
Check that one out.
Oh yeah, I got a Blackmagic 6K. How
Oh,
can I forget
nice.
about that? Of course.
Dude, you and I were
Yeah,
fucking
good camera
riffing
rig.
on what was your cage system again?
I don't know. Yeah, I was sending you like Instagram messages,
yeah.
like, dude, I've got this cage for my Black Magic 6K. I don't know how to put it on. And
That's
you're
got to be
like,
the scammiest component of getting one of those rigs is the fact that you have to buy all these intricate little components, and they never explain it.
It's I tell you what, it's satisfying when you finally get it right and you finish it. And
It's like putting a puzzle together.
Badass cam.
It's fucking great.
Yeah, probably that. Probably the camera.
What about you boys?
I bought Last of Us 2 when we finished up, was working like 14, 15-hour days. And I was like, well, I'm just going to spend 2 weeks on the couch playing some PS4, which I did. And Last of Us 2 was quite good, and then a couple of other games, but nothing really sticks out like that one.
Yeah.
And I reckon mine's probably not so much like the best purchase I made, but the best purchase I stopped making. And that was I stopped buying weed again. And I bought myself a brand new pair of running shoes and tried to melt off those extra regular Old Bogan kilos. And I've just been running flat
Is weed helpful to you for like creative stuff, like writer's room stuff? I know that's like lame question.
I reckon it sounds like it, but what it makes is just really good experiences just seem really shitty and boring, and all you want to do is just sit around and be bored. Like all weed does is make you okay with being bored. And if you've got something on, I think it just increases the anxiety.
Yeah, I'd say we actually write better when you're not smoking weed.
So do I. Yeah.
It's,
and I thought it was going to be fun. I thought it was going to be good, and then it just starts getting. I've got a bit of a problem with it anyway. It just keeps fucking rearing its ugly head, and the only way I do it is running out of it as well. So, and I've been running heaps, and I think that's better. What I get out of that is more beneficial than what I get out of any drug, including weed.
Yeah. Nature's drug.
Nature's drug, yeah.
Go for a run first thing in the morning.
Getting high off running, mate.
Yep, I think today was day 171 in a row of at least 6K.
Jesus.
This guy's been going fucking nuts.
And this weekend I'll run my 4th marathon in 4 weeks. Like, so I run 42Ks for the last 3 weeks on Saturday.
Jesus.
Do you have an area that you run around in Melbourne?
Within my 5K radius, I just do fucking 8 laps.
Oh, good on you. Good on you. And abiding the rules. Everything right.
Feels good.
Fuck. Boys, thank you for doing this. It's a shame, like you said, Mark, that we couldn't do this in person.
I know.
But here we are. We'll get a few nose beers, a few drinks when this lockdown.
Fucking oath. The Stepmates
next
party.
time.
When this lockdown is done.
Yep.
We'll get some bags.
Absolutely. I can't wait. We'll record that too. That'll be the next
Get
podcast.
some uncut gems, boys. We'll get fired up.
Oh, yes.
Let's get the plugs in. Where can people find you on social, and what have you got coming out?
Regular Old Bogan coming out 26th of October, 9 p.m. 7 mate.
Right after Housos.
Right after Housos. And you can follow us on Stepmates, Instagram and Facebook, and we're on Twitter as well.
Cusack?
I'm on Instagram at Michael Cusack. Don't use Twitter that much, but I think it's the same handle. I reckon Instagram. Just follow me there. That's where I am. Posting some dumb shit every now and again. And YOLO Crystal Fantasy. You can't watch that in Australia, so that's a good plug. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe soon.
I'll let you know when
We're
it's available
seeding
at some point.
the Pirate Bay links. We're doing our bit.
Michael can't say that, but we can say that.
The more people out there that
Good. I wanted to say that, but I'd rather
we'll post
someone
a
else say
link
it.
to our regular Old Bergen Pirate Bay as well. We'll have like a dual.
That'd be the dream come true.
Good on you,
boys.
Let's again sometime, boys.
Yes, it's great. It's good fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was great.
It'd be good to do one
Had a lot
before
of
Christmas. Maybe we can do a Christmas special with Cusack's jumper. Is that a Christmas themed jumper?
Love it.
It is. It's the only jumper I've got.
There you
So
go.
it's I'm forced, or I'm just celebrating it early.
Yeah.
Boys,
Well,
thanks
good
for
to meet you,
doing this.
Michael. Thanks, Jordy. Good
Love
to
it,
see you,
fellas.
mate.
Have a good one.
Look after yourself.
Thank you so much for watching Uncommon and this week's episode. If you like it, smash that like button. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, please do subscribe. We would love that. We'd love to build this audience that we're growing here of Uncommoners. If you want to keep up to date with audio, you can search for us on all of your good podcast apps. It's Uncommon or Uncommon Show will typically find us. For social, you want to see behind the scenes this amazing studio that I'm sitting in, just search at Uncommon_show and everything will be there, including our weekly promos. But look, thanks so much for stopping by. Until next time, thanks for watching.